What happens when a man who seemed larger than life, both in stature and in soul, fades quietly into memory? Chuck Connors, towering at nearly 2 meters tall, was not only a sportsman and an actor, but an American icon who bridged baseball, basketball, and the golden age of television. Best known for his role as Lucas McCain in The Rifleman, he brought strength, tenderness, and moral clarity into American living rooms for 5 unforgettable years. But in his final days, it was not a Hollywood ending that awaited him. It was lung cancer, pneumonia, and a quiet farewell that most never heard. If you want to remember lives that shaped our screens and our hearts, consider subscribing to this channel. We honor those who lived boldly and left too soon. Chuck Connors was born Kevin Joseph Aloysius Connors on April 10th, 1921, in Brooklyn, New York. The son of Irish immigrants from Newfoundland, his upbringing was grounded in faith, family, and the working-class rhythm of dockside life. His father labored as a longshoreman. His mother, Marcella, nurtured their home and traditions. Chuck served as an altar boy at the Basilica of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, a small sign of discipline in a boy whose energy would later command sports fields and television screens alike. Even as a child, his size stood out, but so did his warmth. He was a Dodgers fan to the bone, and he dreamed, fiercely, of one day wearing that uniform. Connors' athletic gifts earned him a scholarship to Adelphi Academy and later to Seton Hall University, where he played both basketball and baseball. Yet war interrupted his path. In 1942, at the age of 21, he enlisted in the Army, serving as a tank warfare instructor during World War II. After his discharge in 1946, Chuck played briefly with the Boston Celtics, making history as one of only 13 athletes to play in both the NBA and Major League Baseball. His baseball journey took him from the Brooklyn Dodgers to the Chicago Cubs. But his career on the field never quite soared. It was in the most unexpected way that his second life began. A casting director saw something cinematic in Connors' rugged frame during a minor league game. Soon, he landed a role opposite Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn in Pat and Mike. Hollywood took notice, but it was in 1958, with The Rifleman, that he became a household name. As Lucas McCain, a widowed father and sharpshooting rancher, Connors brought complexity to the Western genre. He was strong, but never cruel. Fierce, but always fair. Privately, though, life was more fragmented. He was married 3 times and fathered 4 sons. Fame did not shield him from divorce, disappointment, or the loneliness that often clings to public figures once the cameras stop rolling. In the early 1990s, Chuck Connors' health began to decline. A longtime smoker, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, a battle he fought silently, with little of the visibility that had once defined his life. Pneumonia soon followed, and his final weeks were spent at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. On November 10, 1992, Chuck Connors passed away at the age of 71. There were no grand final scenes, no sweeping farewell, just a quiet departure from the world he had entertained, inspired, and challenged. He was buried at San Fernando Mission Cemetery. Upon his tombstone, etched alongside a photo of him as Lucas McCain, were the logos of the 3 sports teams he had once called home: the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Chicago Cubs, and the Boston Celtics. A fitting tribute to a man who had lived 3 lives in one. Chuck Connors left behind more than reruns and box scores. He left behind a new archetype of masculinity on screen, one that was tall, principled, and tender. The Rifleman was among the first television shows to center on a single father raising a child. It redefined heroism not through violence, but through integrity. In 1991, Connors was inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. His work resonated across generations and across borders. In a remarkable moment in 1973, Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev embraced Connors at an airfield and later invited him to Moscow. Why? Because The Rifleman was one of the few American shows permitted to air in the USSR, and Brezhnev was its biggest fan. Not many actors could bridge East and West, sport and screen, masculinity and vulnerability the way Chuck Connors did. There are lives that shine through a single gift, sport or acting or sheer physical power. Chuck Connors had them all. Yet it was his humility, his consistency, and his quiet decency that made him unforgettable. He played heroes because, in many ways, he was one. Not perfect, not polished, but real. A man whose strength never required volume, and whose fame never muted his grace. In remembering Chuck Connors, we remember a time when heroes were human, and when courage looked like a father holding a rifle, not to harm, but to protect. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Let's keep remembering the lives that shaped ours.